What do we look for in video games when we don't have a whole lot of time to play them? I've been thinking a lot about that this past year because frankly, it's been one of the craziest years of my life. I graduated law school, I studied for and passed the American bar exam, I recommitted myself to physical fitness, and perhaps most significantly, I got married. With all of that going on, I really didn't have a whole lot of time to play video games, but you know what? I still played them. I needed the occasional mental escape. Who the hell needs sleep? In reflecting on the games that actually managed to hold my attention this year with what little time I had to play them, I noticed some patterns about my own gaming preferences and maybe some patterns that some of you who have a hard time finding time to play games can relate to as well. So without further ado, let's talk about the games that got me through the craziest year of my life. First up, we have Donkey Kong Bonanza. And let me just say that this is the first Switch 2 game that I would consider to be a must own for Switch 2 owners. I know Mario Kart World came out before it, and I'm not calling that a must own. What I love about this game is that you can just boot it up, and within seconds of beginning, you can just start punching things, and it is just a therapeutic level of addicting. I think I spent 25 to 30 minutes in the starting room before I even worked my way out and got my first banana. It's a longer game. You could get lost in it for hours and hours on end and probably take upwards of 50 hours to 100% it, but even so, it doesn't matter how long you have to sit down for at a time. It always feels satisfying to play, and it always feels like you're making some sort of meaningful progress. It reminds me of Mario Odyssey in the sense that no matter where you look, you're going to find a new moon. Donkey Kong Bonanza, no matter where you look, you're going to find a new banana gem. There's also the fact that punching through things and running around as Donkey Kong runs smooth as butter on the Nintendo Switch 2. You could try and nitpick it and look for little frame drops if you're beating up too much of the ground or if the crazy boss fights are too much for the Switch 2 to handle, but I don't care about any of that criticism for the purposes of this video, because all that matters is that when I only had like 30 minutes to play a game at night, I knew I would have fun with this one. I knew I could have fun punching around, destroying things, finding gold, looking for bananas, fighting bosses, just running around in a whimsical DK themed world. It's just fun. It's just fun. Next up, we have Elden Ring Night Rain, and this game really just, this was addicting when I played this game. It took the FromSoft Elden Ring Souls-like formula that I already loved and adapted it into a co-op roguelike experience that had me and my friends itching to jump back in for another run every single time we either slayed the final boss or got absolutely clobbered. Roguelike games like Night Rain are perfect for people who don't have all the time in the world to dive deep into a massive 100+ hour game, because every single run you go on becomes an entire adventure in and of itself. All you need is 40 minutes to go from a level 1 weakling struggling against foot soldiers and mini bosses to a battle-ready monster slaying the final boss of the run. And even I was surprised by how often I felt myself wanting to return to this frankly repetitive experience over and over again. I got the platinum trophy in this game. It was that fun. Even though you start back from square one every single time you spawn into the game, it never gets old because every time you spawn in, you have different map layouts, you'll have different teammates, maybe you'll be attempting a different boss, maybe you're choosing to play as a character you don't normally play as. There's lots of variation that can happen within the same 40 to 45 minute run. And of course, it does help to have good friends to play this game with because it is designed around co-op. Trios is probably the best way to play this game, but even if you don't have people that want to play this game with you, playing with randoms online has proven to be fun because not only do you sometimes get paired up with like the god gamers of the universe who will carry you to victory, but it's hilarious sometimes to get paired up with people who just absolutely don't know what they're doing, and in the same 2-hour session, you could have both ends of the spectrum. I've had nights where one game I absolutely destroy the final boss, and the very next game I play, I literally can't even get past the first 10 minutes without dying over and over again. So even when you do get good at the game, there are ways that it will humble you, and there are ways that it keeps you coming back, and it remains rewarding, because even though you may have tasted victory once, there's no guarantee you're gonna taste it again. All in all, Elden Ring Night Rain was perfect for me this year because I was already familiar with the gameplay style from Elden Ring, and the roguelike formula was the perfect way for me to take it in bite-sized pieces in the little time I had to play video games. Another game I had a ton of fun with this year was Sonic Racing Cross Worlds. I could say a lot about the new stuff this game does well, like its car customization, its unique side modes, its perk system that allows you to create custom power-up loadouts depending on how you want to race. But really what makes this game game addicting is how it just nails that classic kart racer formula. It has Grand Prix that are extremely well designed with awesome courses. It's got iconic characters with cool cars, awesome music to jam along to while you race, and most importantly, it's just fun as hell to drive and drift through these courses. It really lives up to the name Sonic Racing because you feel fast. Just look at this footage, you were absolutely flying most of the time. At the end of the long day, it really is just satisfying to rip through a few races in this game, and that's a big reason why it found a place in my regular rotation. And dare I say, I think it's better than the other major kart racing game that came out this year. That's a conversation for another day though. By the way, I could take or leave some of the crossover DLC they're doing with this one. I don't need SpongeBob or Steve from Minecraft in a Sonic racing game, but yeah, I did kind of cave and buy them, so yeah. Next up we have Hollow Knight Silksong, and to be honest with you, I don't even think I have to spend much time on this game to help you understand why I think it's a good game, because everybody thinks it's a good game. It's fucking Hollow Knight, it's Silksong. Who wasn't waiting for this game for like 8.5 years? But what I love about it is that it's just simply a beautiful game. The gameplay, the combat is so smooth, it is so satisfying to just rip through it, defeat the enemies, platform through the hard sections, beat the difficult bosses, and by the way, it is crushingly difficult. And maybe that insane difficulty is part of why I kept coming back to it during this insane year, because defeating a boss that you spent 50 attempts on, I can't even describe the hit of dopamine you get from finally beating it. I will say that I think it helps that I had already played Hollow Knight. I don't think it would have been as easy for me to jump into this game immediately when it released if I hadn't had that game under my belt. And can we talk about the price? I mean, come on, 20 bucks for this game? This is gonna be a Game of the Year contender, and it was 20 bucks. Yeah, you should pick this one up. Moving on from an indie gem to, well, what some might consider to be slop, we have Call of Duty Black Ops 6. Now look, I will be 100% real with you. I know this game is a flaming hot pile of garbage. I know Treyarch is greedy for charging $30 for a cosmetic bundle. I know it's ridiculous to be playing Team Deathmatch in a war game only to get gunned down by Beavis and Butthead, but you know what? I don't care. I had fun with it. I've been playing Call of Duty since Call of Duty 4 came out for the Xbox 360, and for me, playing a few rounds of multiplayer domination or a high round game of zombies is a comfort food for me, no matter how much of a slop fest the franchise has become. At the very core of it, it's still Call of Duty. It's still a first-person shooter that you can log into for 20 to 30 minutes and make meaningful progress, play a quick few rounds with friends. How they choose to repackage and reskin the same tired formula of team deathmatch, zombies, and shitty war fiction is up to the greedy corporate warlords. What I noticed this year was that all I really needed some nights was the quick dopamine hit of booting up a game of team deathmatch, winning, and turning it off. That was it. And I would imagine that a lot of the player base for Call of Duty feels the same way. And there's so many people like that I feel like that's why Call of Duty might just be too big to fail. It's a formula that's been around for as long as I've been gaming, and there's no sign that it's going anywhere else. Next up, we have Pac-Man World 2 Repack. And let me tell you, this is the blueprint for what remakes should be. It's faithful to the original while also greatly expanding its offerings in a way that could bring a tear to a nostalgic gamer's eye. I did play the original Pac-Man World 2 when I was just a kid on the GameCube, and it was literally one of the best games on the GameCube in my opinion. The 3D platforming mechanics were so perfect, the physics were pretty frustratingly difficult at times, but rewarding when you managed to get through a hard level. And it was freaking Pac-Man. I mean, who doesn't like Pac-Man? He's really cool. And now to see how they've basically remade the game from the ground up with a whole new coat of paint, with a whole new set of physics, with Sonic DLC for some reason. Hey, look. Corporate greed, right? It just makes me happy, you know? This is a game that I knew I would play the day it came out, and I'm happy I did. And I think part of the reason that it's one of the games that I chose to play during this crazy year is the fact that it's a game that is one that I already know that I like. It's a source of comfort for me, and I think that's something that a lot of people end up doing when they don't know what else to play. They go back to those sources of comfort. Now look, it helps that Pac-Man World 2, I would argue, is genuinely a really good 3D platformer. I would recommend this game to people who haven't played the original version, just because it's a good game. But for me, it is that source of comfort. It is that game that I knew I would like before I even booted it up. And so I was not hesitant to spend the little time I had playing it this year. Now, speaking of sources of comfort, I have to give an honorable mention here to the Nintendo Classics library from Switch Online. There really were a lot of nights this past year where I didn't know what I felt like playing, but I knew I wanted to play a video game to chill out. And that's where the Nintendo Online library really came in clutch for me. I can't even tell you how many times I pop on my Switch just to click on the N64, GameCube, or SNES library, flick around the titles and just play 5 or 6 of them for a few minutes. It's kind of a light lift, you know? I don't boot up any of those games expecting to dive in and just 100% it and beat it in one sitting or come back to it time and time again. I just want to, you know, put my feet in the water, and the Switch Online library is perfect for that. It's perfect for the gamer who doesn't have a whole lot of time. It's perfect for the gamer who grew up with these games. And honestly, after so many years of them expanding the library, I can confidently say that I really think it's worth the money. The amount of how many games do we even get for this thing? Let's do a quick Google search. Over 300. Holy shit. Does somebody in the comment section want to honestly tell me that they don't think Switch Online is worth the money in 2025? Come on. We can't talk about Nintendo without talking about a controversial title that I did sink some hours into this year, and that is Pokemon Legends ZA. If you're watching this video, you probably have seen other videos flying around the internet about how bad Pokemon Legends ZA really is, about how it all takes place in one boring city, about how it's an uninspired take on the Pokemon formula, about how all the walls are just PNG windows. And to that, I say, yeah, those people aren't really wrong. I mean, come on, just look at the game. It is all of those things. But at the same time, the Pokemon formula is so addicting, has been around for so long, and is just another source of comfort that for me, it was another place to escape to this year that was familiar and entertaining and something that I knew I would get 20 hours of fun out of, regardless of how poorly it was executed. And on that note, I don't think I would say that it was necessarily poorly executed. They did innovate the battle system in a way that is fresh and new and much more action-packed and fast-paced. And they gave us new Mega Evolutions that are kind of cool, like Mega Starmie, right? Yeah, that's cool, right? But what I'm here to tell you is that despite all of this game's flaws, it's still a Pokemon game that caught my attention during a year where it was kind of hard for games to catch my attention. I can't mention this game without mentioning the fact that it's kind of crazy that they announced DLC for the game before it even came out. Thought that was kind of weird. What I think you'll notice when you look back at the games I chose to talk about in this video is that I talked about games that were critically acclaimed, but also games that were kind of controversial. I talked about games that were massively multiplayer. I talked about games that were single player. There was no clear pattern to the genre or type of game I chose to play this year, but there were some overall similarities between the games that I chose to play when I was lacking time. I played games that were familiar to me because in a year where I didn't really have the mental energy to take on a whole lot of new things, the games that were familiar to me were the most comfortable and the most beautiful. I played games that were rewarding, and that's not to say that all games aren't rewarding in their own way, but I gravitated towards games that were designed to be particularly rewarding, like Silksong with its crushing difficulty, and the same is true for Elden Ring Night Rain. It felt good to get that psychological dopamine hit after trying so hard to beat something and not being able to do it and finally succeeding. Games that gave me that extra level of satisfaction were games that were able to hold my attention during this crazy year. I played games that didn't really demand too much time. Like I said about Call of Duty, you could play the game for 20 minutes and make meaningful progress. Sonic Racing Cross Worlds, you could play a couple races and be done for the night. And most importantly, I played games that I thought were fun, because at the end of the day, that's all that really matters when we play a video game. It's that we're having a good time. It didn't matter to me whether a game was heavily scrutinized by fans or whether it was being praised by critics across the board. If it was fun for me when I sat down to play it, then it was worthwhile for me to sit down and play it. And of course, what I have a good time doing is going to be a lot different than what you have a good time doing. Let me know in the comments below what games you play when you're short on time, and I guess I'll see you in the next video because I finally have time to make them again.